A lot of people wanted to hear about the great eagle of Revelation chapter 12. So I figured I would try to get a little teaching into this. This chapter, probably one of the most diverse chapters in the entire Bible. It covers basically three dispensations. You know the dispensations because you've seen it as the was, the is, and the is to come. So I'm going to get right into the actual scripture itself. And I'm going to skip over some things, but we basically, in order to get what this whole chapter means, we basically got to read the whole thing. Now, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. I think the 12 tribes of Israel with those stars. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and pain to give birth. Another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. Big time reference to the age that was. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Go back to the garden. You know what? Who was in the garden? You had Eve and you had Satan. Okay, you know, the prophecy that was given in the garden is that, you know, the bruising of the heel and the bruising of the head. That Satan would bruise the heel of the seed of Eve, and Satan's head would be crushed by that same very seed of Eve. Eve is representative of the woman, the mother of all living. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron, reference to the millennial reign. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. Here we have the cross. What happened at the cross? Where did he go after he was resurrected? Up to the right hand of God. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Same time frame as the tribulation. And it's given in days. One way you can decode a scripture is given for God's people is it's given in days. Days equals light, light of the world. Moons or darkness is a scripture that's given for Satan and his seed. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was there a place for them in heaven any longer. Okay, so this war in heaven's been going on for a long time. The wars in heaven's been going on since Satan deceived the third of the stars of heaven. That spans the dispensation that was, and it spans the dispensation that is. Or if you don't like the word dispensation, you can call it the age, the era, or the aeon. If you get deep into the word, these are different eras of time. So the great dragon was cast out, the serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives. Who does he deceive? He deceives the whole world. What's in the world? God's creation, man. He was cast out to the earth. His angels were cast out with him. He's not by himself. His angels are cast out with him. Put that on the shelf. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. He has the time that is appointed to him in the great tribulation. Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. This is a symbol, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. We're going to find out just in a little while who the descendants of the woman are. But you got to know something. This age, which started about 6,000 years ago, you have a span of 6,000 years. If you think about all the places in the world and how they were populated, especially in the time that this Bible was written, where the United States was a wilderness. Yes, there was a few Indians living here, but there really wasn't anybody living here. It was a wilderness. Keep that on the shelf. To her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and a half a time from the presence of the serpent. Again, this is the same exact time period as the tribulation. And the woman is given a place or a form of protection from the serpent in the wilderness with a symbol of the great eagle. Does any of this start ringing a bell to anybody? So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman. What do you see happening now? Do you see great deceptions, lies, made up things, narratives being pushed under every rock at every corner? This flood is a web of deceit, a web of lies that chases after God's people. It's going to spell it out for you in just a minute. That he might cause her to be carried away by the flood, to be taken up in deceit, to be taken up in lies. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. So you got to take this into consideration. What do you see happening now? Do you see people starting to get it? People starting to turn off the news, turn off whatever is causing a narrative to be showed into them? The earth is starting to soak up the lies and deception, and people are beginning to see it. Not everybody, but those that God has appointed. And he's going to tell you who they are in just a second. And the flood, and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. Now you know it's coming out of his mouth. What comes out of your mouth but words, narratives, and lies? And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now, I've got to ask you a serious question. Who are those? Are they Jews? Orthodox Judaism does not accept Christ. Who accepts Christ? Who keeps the commandments? The saints, the church. These are the descendants of the woman. So there's a whole lot more to this. There's proof. And there's also proof that shows who the United States is in the Bible. No, the Bible does not say the United States. It just doesn't. God doesn't list this country as the United States. But who does he list it as? Well, there's proof in it. And we'll continue that at a later time.